Rachel Scott talking about another looming government shutdown. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning up into Maine. Good morning beyond nationally. Thousands of you streaming each morning now. Good morning. Hope you're having a good start on this Tuesday. We have some milder temperatures today and tomorrow. We'll get back to that. J Dog on the board. So let me just get this straight before we bring in our first big newsmaker. Here we go again. Imagine waking up every 4 to 6 or 8 weeks in your business or your state and, oh, another looming government shutdown. The president meeting today with key congressional leaders to try and come up with enough money to keep things going, including $60 billion in aid to Ukraine. What a way to run a business, right? What a way to run a government. You can't do that in states like New Hampshire. I mean, Governor Sununu, they have to balance a budget here. Unbelievable. And then you have the same president. He goes on with Bedford's own Seth Meyers last night on late night saying, oh, we might have a ceasefire in 6 days in Gaza. And this morning, the prime minister of Israel, Netanyahu, scratches his head. What'd he say? What a system, huh? Hey, but by the way, big vote today, or big voting today in Michigan. Trump's looking for another one, racking up the wins here. We'll get an update on that as well. And also the border visit this week. That should be interesting, huh? How'd you like to be a fly on the wall? President Biden in one area in Brownsville, Trump over, I think, is visiting where Governor Sununu did recently in Texas with Governor Abbott looking at the southern border. Let's bring in Governor Chris Sununu, a newsmaker out of the gate this morning, live. Good morning, New Hampshire, the pulse of an age. Governor, good morning. Well, I don't know. I just tried to make sense of the federal thing. I mean, what a system, huh? I mean this. I know this may seem very elementary to you, but why is it the states like New Hampshire have to balance their budget, live within their means, but the federal government, $34.2 trillion in debt, and we go from a crisis every couple months. What is this? Right? No. Yeah, I know. I know it's going back quite a ways. Was that part of your decision way back when you decided to not to run for the Senate? You didn't want to be one of those and be caught up in that? Yeah. Governor Sununu, I know you've been a very loyal supporter of Nikki Haley. You were talking about it this past weekend. Michigan votes today. It looks like it's five in a row for Trump. Big wins, big win in South Carolina. Why should Nikki Haley stay in this thing? Yeah. Mhm. Right, right. Governor Chris Sununu, you've been consistent saying that Trump can win a primary, but he's going to have a hard time in the general election. You came out with a field, still pretty good sized field here, and you chose Nikki Haley. I'm one of the people that doesn't begrudge her for running and being in this. She's made it a two-person race, and we still haven't gotten to Super Tuesday. But some say it's already over. Trump has it won. He's going to wrap it up in Super Tuesday. So if it is inevitable and Trump's the nominee, and you want Republicans to win, how what can he do? What can people like you do to kind of circle the wagons so that that we have a good, the Republicans have a good showing in November, in the general election? Or you've been critical of Trump in the past. Is it kind of like, okay, that's what we have, and we're not going to do well in the general election? Right. Governor, you recently went to the southern border. I think it was a community where there's been some newsworthiness. You visited Governor Abbott. You've been down there. You're committing, supporting with some troops, National Guard, and so is Georgia. And what do you make of the politics now with President Biden going Thursday, I think, to Brownsville? I think former President Trump is going to where you visited, I believe. What do you make of the politics now? And what do you say to people where Joe Biden, even last night with Seth Meyers, blaming Trump for telling Republican members in the House, don't vote for the border bill? And Biden, what has he done in 3 years? And what do you make of the politics in and around the border all of a sudden, is it just pure politics? Yeah. Yeah, I forgot that one with the vice president. She was gonna take care of the board. I forgot that one. Hey. Yeah, yeah. Or or tell the parents of that, Georgia, nursing student, who was murdered, that the illegal stuff sometimes doesn't matter in terms of the guy from Venezuela. Hey, let me just end with this, Governor, here close to home, under the dome at the State House. Um, the House passed, and it's still in the House, legalized marijuana for recreational use. You've been quite outspoken on this in the past in terms of reducing, decriminalizing small amount possession, medicinal marijuana, but you've held back on, full blown recreational. So if this gets to this, it's going to get to the Senate eventually. Senator Bradley was on me the other day, Senate President. He's a no vote. Senator Del Sandro's a no vote, but Senator Bradley said there may be enough votes that this gets through the Senate this time. If this bill, as you know it now in the House, and it can change, gets to your desk, are you open minded on recreational pot use in New Hampshire, or are you opposed to it out of the gate? What do you not like about it? What do you not like about it? So, right. So, as is, you don't like it. Will you get involved in the Senate if they change it to something you can sign, or are you going to kind of let it go through the legislative process and then weigh if it gets? No, that's clear. All right. Governor, thank you. Appreciate it. Governor Kristen and live. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Thank you, Governor. All right, a lot to wrap up there. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, J Dog on the boards. You lost just one. Back in a moment. Oh, welcome. All right, welcome back to the 6 Hour Studios, Jack Heath, and quite a in-depth interview there with Governor Sununu. Just breaking that down right now. But let me go back to the top of the show and happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Just a few days left, Jada. We're gonna welcome in March on Friday, right? Let me just go back to the top of the show. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age, and our network of news talk stations, and thousands of you streaming each morning. The show's gone national, and we appreciate that in the streaming metrics. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H, 9 to noon weekdays right here. So what a complete mess. Talk about the only word I can think of this morning when I look at Washington, and I said it the other morning, or maybe it's yesterday in the show. The problem in America today, ironically, is Washington, D.C., in many aspects of our lives. Complete and utter dysfunction. Complete and utter dysfunction. The problem in America is Washington. I mean, look at our lives. Look at your life. People, Americans are preparing for tax season to pay their bills. Those who pay taxes, businesses have to meet payrolls. States have to balance budgets. You have to live within your means. You can't print money and keep raising the debt limit, although a lot of people depend on their credit cards to get by these days with inflation. But what a mess in Washington. $34.2 trillion debt. That's more than $100,000 on every individual in America, every civilian's head, the cost of that. And today, the president is going to meet with key congressional leaders to try and avoid another looming government shutdown. Are you kidding me? Did they think we're stupid? We just had one of those, 8 weeks ago? Oh, and the lawmakers meet into the midnight hours and burn that oil and into the weekend to avoid and avert a government shutdown. And then I'm told by all our expert thinkers out there, oh, you can't shut the government down partially, or you can't shut it down, and you can't talk about spending cuts. We got to pay our bills, got to honor our obligations. Now, Jack, is not the time to bring up spending cuts. Well, when the hell is the time? 34.2 trillion debt. When is the time? And then further dysfunction. I mean, look at this. You can't make this stuff up. President Biden goes on late night last night with Seth Meyers of Bedford, New Hampshire, by the way. Good person, good show, and good for the president. And the big news that the national media is running with this morning, President Biden told Seth Meyers that we may be 6 days away from a ceasefire in Gaza. And Netanyahu, who runs Israel, who's half the equation, wakes up this morning and say, what the hell is he talking about? That's news to me. Why would you go on Seth Meyers if there is going to be a possible ceasefire and telebroadcast that and tick off Netanyahu, and even Hamas is not denying it this morning? I don't, I'm just saying, looming government shutdown, dysfunction. Oh. And then, to make matters worse, and I talked about it yesterday in depth, watch Thursday, the day after tomorrow this week. Dueling banjos on the southern border, Biden and Trump. Talk about a preview to the general election, right? And that's as Michigan votes today. President Biden going to the border, Brownsville, I think, in Texas, southern border with Mexico. I think Trump's going to, was it Eagle Pass or wherever they've had some news. Same day, talking about border security. The national media will bring up the border security bill. That's what Biden talked about last night as well with Seth Meyers. Oh, and Trump, blame Trump. I didn't do a damn thing for 3 years, and I made it all worse, but blame Trump for telling lawmakers in the House to vote against that border security bill because it would make Biden look good. Blame Trump. He didn't vote on anything, but blame him. I did crap for 3 years. Zippo, nada. I made it worse. And every time Texas tried to secure its state in the country, my Department of Justice sued him. Oh, my goodness. You can't make this stuff up. Biden's done nothing in 3 years. And I've forgotten. Governor Sununu just reminded me. What an insult to our intelligence. A year or two ago, when the border crisis was getting worse and more voters, including Democrats, were getting ticked off that we weren't doing anything about it, And then those Neanderthal Southern governors started busing and flying illegal migrants up to Boston and New York City and DC. Biden makes Vice President Harris the border czar. What has she done? Anyone out there? Anyone? What have we done? We've watched millions of people come across seeking asylum. Heck, they were probably encouraged to do it. What a mess. What a human mess. What a complete mess. And all we have is politics and political finger pointing and bickering. Dysfunction in Washington. Washington, how can it's Tom Raffio, unrelated because he doesn't get into this stuff, but president and CEO of Northeast Delta Dental, great part of our show here in the state, and Delta Dental Radio, does so much to help veterans, and Tom's the Energizer and a lot of good stuff in our communities. But he often talks about oral health and how can you have good overall health if above your neckline, your head, if you have oral health issues. It's a good analogy, right? How can you be healthy if you're not healthy up above? So my question is, if Washington, unrelated to talk, if Washington D.C. is our capital, how can we be healthy as a nation if our capital is so dysfunctional? You ever think about that? Individual states have to live within their means. Like New Hampshire, we have a 2-year budget that has to balance. We don't want to get into a debt situation and spend and borrow more than we take in. But that's not true with the federal government. Oh, another looming government shutdown. Oh, my goodness. Another looming government shutdown. Reminds me a little bit of that movie, Hunt for Red October, when the guy who's in the State Department and the Soviet diplomat or ambassador is sitting there and they not only have lost the Red October in the movie with Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin, the late Sean Connery, Sir Sean Connery. They might have another Soviet ballistic sub that went missing. And the guy says, wait a minute, you have not one, but two? I mean, the dysfunction in Washington is rather remarkable. And we all know it. And I think we all can agree on it. But how the hell do you change it? More on that when we come back. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Good looking Tuesday, mild wise, and a little bit crazy weather in terms of some milder temperatures tomorrow as well. A little bit of wind, a little bit of rain. But we're going to be in the morning into tomorrow, in the overnight, into the 40s. Tomorrow, we're going to be into the mid 50s almost. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment. Good morning, and welcome back on this Tuesday. We do have a lot of news happening out there. Another looming government shutdown. Oh my goodness. Manufactured crisis to manufactured crisis. So Michigan voting today. Looks like Trump's going to rack up 5 in a row. I think it's at least 5. They were saying a big primary win there for him. Nikki Haley trying to hold on. You just heard Governor Chris Sununu live in the show saying, not enough votes yet to tell. Wait till Super Tuesday. But Nikki Haley losing one of the key Koch brothers and the AFP money, one of those ads. So it's tough to hang in there. And of course, Trump's a different brand, right? Unlike even Biden, Trump's Trump. So a lot of the money he's raising nationally is going to pay the legal bills. He doesn't really need if Trump flies somewhere, gives a speech, that's the campaign. Nikki Haley needs the campaign, the organization, the staff. So the money's important. That's happening in Michigan. But I wanted to go back to something I said a moment ago, and we just had some good reaction on our folks who are listening nationally streaming. The problem with America today, and we have many, it's still the best nation on earth, but seriously, there's some serious challenge. The problem in America is Washington, D.C., our capital. That's where the problem is. It's not out in the states. It's not out in states like here or Florida where they run the state well, live within the means, balance budgets. The problem is in Washington. The dysfunction is like a quicksand that is engulfing the Potomac. You have looming government shutdown again. The president today is going to meet with key congressional leaders to try and avert a government shutdown. Didn't we just go through this a few months ago? That's how $34.2 trillion in debt. Trillion. More than $101,000 on every civilian, every person in this country, hopefully legal. Haha, get it? Over $100,000 on every single person, not just taxpayers, what this cost us to service that. And we can't talk about spending cuts in Washington. No, we can't cut a damn thing here. $34.2 trillion in debt. Another government shutdown on the horizon. They can't agree on anything. You can't run your lives and your business like that. We can't run our lives each day or week or month like that. We can't print money and raise our debt limit. The credit card may be maxed, money in, money out. You got to pay the bills. You got to pay the utility, groceries, inflation, and your business. You can't run a business. So no wonder people are cynical. No wonder people look at Washington, and most all of us can agree that it's broken. And you know what I love? These politicians time after time. I'm going to run again. I'm going to bring some of my state to Washington and change this craziness. And we need to take dark money out of politics. And then look when a U.S. senator runs for re-election, an incumbent, tens of millions of dollars come out of left or right field. Amazing, isn't it? Just drops out of the sky. It's okay if it's for me, all these donors. And then I go down there and I don't change anything, but all I care about is getting reelected. Money and power run Washington. The hypocrisy, the dysfunction is getting worse. And Washington is the number one problem facing most Americans today. And that's a problem. So when you look at all this, and I'm looking at it going, okay, there are ways we actually could fix this or improve it. But what are the chances of it happening? Okay, Jack, you talk about the problem. Give me a few solutions. Well, we do need a leader, whether it's on Capitol Hill or in the White House, who can articulate a 5 to 7 year plan to lower our debt. Here's how we're going to do it. Put it on a one page through federal departments and agencies, through attrition, through incentivizing these secretaries who run these big agencies to actually do better and save money versus ordering them to spend every last penny. Do you know the VA, for example, nationally or VA, you're told spend every penny you get. There's no prize for being more innovative and saving money in the federal government. None. Like when you save your household money, or you cut your cable, or you save money, or your business, good, right? Not if you're running the Department of Agriculture or Education. Spend it all. Department of Energy. Spend it all. So let's cut each agency and allow the people run the agencies. That's how we do it in the States, to figure out the best way to achieve savings through attrition, through efficiencies, through getting rid of redundancies, to eliminating waste, and do it for 7 years and commit to it. And as Governor Sununu just said, what's wrong with proposing a balanced budget nationally? It may require the American people, but most people would say, yeah, they should live within their means. Just cutting 34 point. You're telling me that you can't cut the federal government? Are you kidding me? Do you know how much money just is paid to congressional offices? Like U.S. senators, you get a furniture budget, you get district office budgets, you get other when just cut. You tell them you can't be a United States senator from Maine or New Hampshire with say 10 people on your staff total. Yeah, you could. Yeah, you can. You just like a business. You do more with less. You don't need all you can be very responsive today online. And half these people don't even see their constituents when they go back. Oh, the congressman or congresswoman, they're busy today. Cut across the board. And because today, what a oxymoron, right? What a hypocritical sentence to hear. President Biden is meeting with congressional leaders today on more spending to avert a government shutdown, and then also finding $60 billion to send to Ukraine. You're like, whoa. Our government, we're going to spend more. I'm not saying it's not good or bad. I know that Zelensky, I know the Ukrainian forces are running out of bullets and support and money. I get it. But we've given a lot, and we'll probably give more. You got the situation with Israel and Gaza in the middle and Hamas. But we're going into another government shutdown potentially or partial because we can't agree on anything. I mean, the whole system is so crappy. It is crappy beyond description. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when is it going to pop? And what does that look like? And you know how stupid it is, our politics, when it gets back to local races? If you are running for Congress, Democrat, Republican, Independent, I don't care. And you say, we're taking Social Security out of younger people, like under 30 years old, their paychecks. And we're lying to them if they think it's going to be there down the road because of the number of aging Americans. So why don't we raise the minimum retirement age? People are living longer. Oh, you know what they do? People that love government spending, like print the money. They'll say, oh, he or she or they want to take away your Social Security. That's what they do. You can't even talk about ways of saving it for future generations and current generations. So it's there. And we've been robbing Peter to pay Paul. You talk about anything and they say, oh, you want to take away Social Security. You talk about ways to make Medicare more efficient. Oh, he or she, they want to take away your Medicare. Medicaid. Oh, they want to take away your Medicaid. Even if you talk about innovative ways to strengthen it, no, they want to take it away. So then you scare the seniors, scare everyone, and no one votes for you. And you might be the one in the crowd in the room that wants to save it and have the only plan to save it. See, the truth is, politics is the problem. It's permeated everything. Social media makes it worse. But when you look at the hypocritical politics, the Governor Sununu referenced this when I was talking about the border visits of Biden and Trump on Thursday to the southern border in Texas and Mexico. Biden is caught between a rock and a hard place, and Sununu hit the nail on the head. President Biden, when he got elected, told the far left, the socialists, it's ironic they call them progressive. They should be called regressive. The Ocasio-Cortez, all these members of Congress that think that illegal migrants are more important to take care of than Americans. Biden didn't want to do anything to tighten or secure the border. He didn't want to upset them because they don't want borders. They won't really put their hand up in the air because they won't get reelected. But if they had their way, they don't even want borders. Let everyone come in. That's Ocasio-Cortez out of New York. Let everyone come in. And Biden kind of went along with that. Now it's a crisis, and 9 out of 10 people say, we got a crisis. Now they're trying to act tough. Oh, my goodness, they're trying to act tough. But the same philosophy goes with the Bernie Sanders of the world and the people on the far left who basically don't worry about the debt, the federal debt. We can just keep raising the debt limit and print more money and spend more. The problem is the private sector. The problem is the corporations, not the federal government. And these people, by the way, that perpetuate the craziness in Washington and they become rich. I mean, even Bernie Sanders has a couple homes and is worth millions from all this public service. What will Nancy Pelosi and her husband are worth about what, 150, 200 million, $25 million home in Palm Beach from all that public service. All that public service. But they like it. They think you get prosperity from the public sector, not the private sector. That's the truth. That's the irony. They think you have success from the federal government, not the private sector. All businesses, corporations, they're the enemy. They're the bad guys. The government is the good guy. So there you have it. And the road jams, House Republicans get yelled at if they talk about spending cuts. You got to pay your bills. You can't have a partial government shutdown to get the Biden White House to agree to cut anything. Are you kidding me? $34.2 trillion in debt. 100,000, 101, almost 102,000. It's going to cost every person in this country, not just taxpayers. And we can't cut anything. I've referenced it several times. There was this movie, I think it was called Dave, the American President Dave. This actor goes in, the chief of staff, the real president has a heart attack or he's in the basement and like life support for fooling around with his assistant or something. He had a heart attack. So Dave goes in to play the American president, looks like him, and he kind of falls in love with the first lady in the show. They have like they actually get a relationship, and he starts caring about the good, you know, centers and cities and all that for kids after school and all that. And he's told, well, we can't afford it. So he pulls all the cabinet and he goes around the room and says, we're going to pay for this stuff and we're all going to cut. And he takes out a piece of paper and his accountant friend there, the guy who was in, Independence Day. They go in and he starts telling each person around the room, you can cut. You're going to tell those kids no. And every department had cuts. And it's just a movie scene, but that's what you could do in a cabinet meeting. Go around the room. Hey, Department of Education, you get 10% less this year. Agriculture, 10% less. The mission won't change, just the bureaucracy. Cut the bureaucracy. Cut the fat. Cut the bureaucracy. That's the way you save money in business and in government. You cut that the bureaucratic stuff that cost all the money. The bureaucrats cost all the money. Cut it. Some commentary, 603-228-2080. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, back in a moment. Bruins are thumping into it on the road. These overtime losses on some of these tough trips, and I guess Seattle, the most recent one. That should be a fun one, though. Yeah, yeah. All right, good stuff, J Dog. Coming up, we are going to hear from our Seacoast side of things. Alicia Preston's Anthopoulos, Seacoast Online, in her perch from Hampton. Also, Aaron Real, NBC News Radio national correspondent. We'll get a check in from some of our political experts on the Michigan vote today. Obviously, it's Biden and Trump. That's where it's headed. Both will do fine in Michigan. Trump will get a big win. It's fifth in a row. Onward to Super Tuesday. And the fix is in, right? The last thing anyone wants is Biden and Trump. It's exactly what we're going to get. Maybe a little hip check or an elbow from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as an independent. What a system, huh? And by the way, it's that same system that perpetuates what I was talking earlier. What we get. What we get. You know, we've. How do I say this? We, in the last couple of decades, we've just put up with this, and we've allowed it to happen. So much in our country we've done to ourselves by just silence. You ever think about that? A few people speak up. You know, if you really think about it, and maybe I'll post this as some commentary. If you really think about it, a lot of a lot of a lot of the ills or frustrations that we see locally and nationally in our politics, we've done to ourselves. What I mean by that is in the last 10 or 20 years, we've allowed the silent majority just allows more insanity. If someone locally in a community objects to the Christmas tree lighting, the town council meets and they say, "Oh, we have to be all inclusive and make it a holiday tree lighting, not a Christmas tree lighting." If someone objects to Thanksgiving, the name of it, we're going to look at reviewing that. Well, 8 or 9 of us may say, "I like a Christmas tree lighting, even if you don't celebrate Christmas. I like Thanksgiving." Oh, what about law enforcement and public safety? We allow anti-police sentiment for many, many years in our larger urban, more populated areas, and we don't say anything to protect or defend the good law enforcement people out there who show up at 2 in the morning when you call 911. And we wonder why there's a recruitment crisis to become a police officer. We stay silent on Washington, and we want to believe that members of Congress really have our backs and want to represent us. And good luck to the school teacher or the firefighter, or the entrepreneur or the engineer who wants to run against Mitch McConnell or Nancy Pelosi. Good luck, because those incumbents, like Nikki Haley has a good line. Those most expensive nursing home on earth. Those 70 or 80-year-old members of Congress, those public servants, they get 50 or 70 million dollars miraculously from somewhere every time they run for re-election. And you're trying to hire a staffer and drive around to speak to the Rotary. Good luck defeating that member of Congress. But no one talks about term limits. We have a $34.2 trillion debt, and no one talks about cutting a damn thing in Washington, and we just go along with it. We just go along with it, and we do nothing. We don't really say anything either. And Washington is broken. It's dysfunctional. Money runs it. Money and power fuel Washington, not the Potomac. Trust me. And we don't do a damn thing about it. We just sort of put up with it. And each time someone who runs for one of these offices, "Oh, I'm going to bring a little bit of my home state to Washington," and nothing changes. And we're all okay with it. So a lot of the things that I see that are broken, we've kind of done to ourselves. We've allowed them to happen. Because a few people will speak up and they're the loudest, but 8 or 9 people don't say a thing. Common sense is evaporated. Common sense is probably it's probably worth more than gold or lithium or anything else out there. But where's it gone? Because we've allowed it to happen to ourselves. We've watched it happen. And the question is, what can we do to change it? How do we actually get fresh members, new people into Congress who don't want to make a professional career out of it? How do we actually look at cutting the federal spending? Because it's going to cost all of us. You just can't keep printing the money and raising the debt limit and have a government shutdown every few months. It doesn't work. But again, we're oblivious to it. The noise, no one wants to deal with it. Out of sight, out of mind. Some commentary. All right, coming up, we got a packed show for you. More of my interview with Governor Chris Sununu coming up this morning. As far as legalized marijuana for New Hampshire, Sununu said to me on the show he will sign a bill, but not in its current form in the House. He has to see some changes in terms of the number of locations, not that many. The people pushing it can't lobby government. It's a few other things. Sounds like he'd sign it, but not as it is now. And that bill will eventually go from the House to the Senate probably this spring or shortly, and it may pass the Senate. So it's going to wind up on the governor's desk. Right now, that would probably be a veto in its current form. Will it change in the Senate? Sununu said he's told the people behind it what he wants to see, what he needs to see. So right now it's a no, but he said he'd sign it. So we'll have more on that. You can listen yourself. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play The Pulse of an Age. Mild Tuesday, Jack Heath, J-Dog, and the board's back in a few.